Hello, welcome to the Astrology and Spirituality show for week commencing the 24th of May with Elisa and Patrick. This week sees a lunar eclipse in the sign of Sagittarius on Wednesday. Now, Sagittarius energy is very big, it's bold, it's investigative, it's curious, and having the moon here, therefore, sees us wanting to find some kind of deeper truth and meaning. On the other side of the heavens, of course, we've got the sun dancing its way through the quick-witted, sharp-eyed energy of Gemini. So what will this mean over the next 6 months? Well, I think we have to take into account that there is a square between Jupiter, the planet of growth and expansion, which governs the sign of Sagittarius, but is currently located in the other zodiac sign it informs, which is Pisces. So that means that things can kind of take on an amplified, an exaggerated form if we let them. So I think really what this is asking us to think about is not just communication in general, which of course Gemini governs everyday communication with our neighbours, with siblings, anything to do with technology. It's very, very quick moving, it's fluid, it's sharp, it's snappy, it's exciting, it's fun, but it doesn't have a great attention span. On the other side of the heavens, Sagittarius gives that greater sense of meaning, but also being a mutable sign. So we've got a mutable T-square here with the Jupiter position in Pisces. There's a lot of sort of shifting and hoiling around. It's not very static. So I think basically it's saying that over the next 6 months, we have an opportunity to get more in touch with communicating what's really meaningful, rather than being so dominated by this absolute barrage of data that we all have to absorb every single day. Maybe we need to find ways to just manage what we take in a little bit to create a greater sense of peacefulness within ourselves, so we're not so distracted by our devices, by all the white noise that's out there. That's how I see it. Now, of course, Mercury is in its shadow period, but does forge a glittering alliance with Venus in the sign of Gemini. And along with the North Node, it means that Gemini season is very much in effect. But of course, on Sunday, Mercury does go formally into its retrograde. So communication can be very positive this week. It can be bright and breezy. It can be fun. If you're in a part of the world lucky enough to be coming out of restrictions around COVID, the ability to mix and mingle, share ideas, have some laughter and have some stimulation will be absolutely glorious. But it's just saying, I feel this lunation, it's not what we say so much or how often we say it, it's what it really means. So if we can make our communication more in touch with our true emotions, that's really going to be the message that the planets are asking us to attune to over this next 6 month period. Now, Elisa, what about that Hermetic Wheel? Have we got a crossover week, or is it one card for the whole week?
We have one card for the whole week this week, which is really quite nice because it really allows us to hone in our focus. It's so interesting what you're saying about that Gemini energy, because as we know, Gemini is a mutable sign. But as we also know, the sign is split into decans, and that's where we get these pip cards from that we're talking about in terms of the tarot each week. Now, the first decan of Gemini, the first 10 degrees, is actually cardinal. So even though Gemini itself is that mutable energy...
So in the astrology, it's Mercury, which obviously is very mutable because it governs the sign of Gemini and Virgo, both mutable signs, but in the Hermetic Wheel, that first 10 degrees is in fact cardinal.
Yes. So that might sound a little bit confusing, but we'll tie it into what the card means, and then hopefully we can sort of pad out this puzzle that we have with it for this week. The card that we have for this 10-day stretch is the 8 of Swords. On the surface, it is a very difficult card, the Eight of Swords. It's very thought-like, which is Gemini. It's about air. It's about our thought processes. But it feels as though we're trapped in a prison of our own making. This is not a physical prison, it's a prison within our mind. With the Eight of Swords, we can sometimes feel that we're in a situation where we don't know how to get out of it. We don't know the steps forward. We're not seeing the big picture. Perhaps we're too focused on details to be able to navigate. But with the Eight of Swords, there is always a gate. Maybe it's an invisible gate at the moment, but there is always a way through it. So I feel like we may have some challenges, particularly with how we're dealing with our thought processes this week.
Is it a case of we think our reality then? So we can challenge this Eight of Swords by trying to change the way we think?
Yeah, that's a difficult concept, isn't it? And one that I kind of step away from at times, because that whole notion of our thoughts create our reality is very, popular. It's very out there. But it also can be a little bit damaging to people that are in situations that they haven't created themselves.
That's a brilliant point. I love that.
But in saying that, there are situations where if we keep thinking down a specific thing that we're going through, we can stay stuck in that. So it's kind of like that fake it till you make it energy. Sometimes we have to kind of try and raise our vibe by ourselves, become that generator ourselves to get ourselves out of a situation. So a good week for some tears to come out, a good week for some frustrations to come out, to maybe talk to somebody, use that Gemini energy to maybe have open communications with people.
Yeah, I rang a friend this morning who I know is going through a sensitive time, and so she basically vented all her emotions very immediately. And actually, once she did that, we had a bit of a laugh, and then we were just talking it back through and perhaps seeing how things are actually moving in her situation. And she wasn't quite as helpless as she seemed. She was actually taking action, but it was a bit of an uncomfortable process in order to make the change occur, which we can relate to as well with this move, where it's been delayed and delayed and delayed, and it's been so frustrating. And it drains you, and it does make you feel sort of that you don't have any control over it. Mm-hmm. So once we talk something through, if we're fortunate enough to be able to do so with somebody, I feel it can sort of help to release some of that negativity.
That's so wonderful. And if we don't feel that we can, or that we're not ready to talk to somebody about it, talking out loud, talking to ourselves can be quite therapeutic.
Oh, I used to do that. The trouble is I used to start arguing myself.
That's when you're really in that.
No, seriously, I did, because I lived on my own for a long, long time. It's like, go and do not tell me what to do. I'll make my own decisions. So I'd actually be having this discussion with myself. God.
It's brilliant. I do think that we can find that way out. Let's just have that argument with ourselves, vent it out, have a laugh about it as well.
Don't start. I'll start if I want to.
So that's the kind of energy that we're dealing with.
That's lovely. And in terms of people who have written in and various things, so Malcolm wrote in about, we mentioned Banksy last week as catching the mood of our times, and Malcolm came in and said that he felt he'd experienced meeting the person, but he didn't think it was a man.
Yeah, do you know, when I read your comment, Malcolm, I got butterflies, because I'd always just presumed that Banksy must be a man. But
we're saying then, after Malcolm's comment, we went for a walk and said, well, why have we all assumed that it must be a man?
And it's funny, because I spoke to my mum about it as well, and she was just as sort of shocked as I was at the notion that maybe Banksy could be a woman. And it's not necessarily to do with whether Banksy's a man or Banksy's a woman. It doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. The art and the what they are talking about, that representation of time, is what's important. But
it was just the assumption.
It was the assumption that I'd kind of put on
and me
myself, that Banksy must have been a man. So it's funny how maybe we all have an underlying bias that we just
We've
are
got
not
to keep challenging.
conscious of. Yeah,
we've
so
got to
thank
keep
you
trying.
for that comment, Malcolm. It really made me think.
And Douglas came up with a great word for the week, which was relax.
Relax.
Yeah, let the shoulders come down. Let's just sit. Where are your shoulders?
Yeah, mine are a little bit tight today.
Yeah, my left shoulder's right up. I used to have therapeutic massage about once every 2 or 3 weeks with my friend Jeff, who is very experienced. He's retired now. He used to be a partner in a natural health centre, and he's brilliant. Everyone who's ever had a massage with him would confirm the same. But Jeff has been doing it for me as a kind of favour, but because of COVID we had to stop. Then we started a bit when it eased, and we haven't restarted. But we are going for some chiropractic on the 3rd of June, and Our Lady is brilliant, Julie, at Castle Chiropractic, just giving you a shout out then, and also lovely Brenda, who's our friend who works there. And it is true that relax, do we sometimes check out where our bodies are, where the breath is? Yeah.
It's really important. I mean, I was speaking to a guy who was native to Hawaii, one of the Hawaiian islands, and he joked that they call us in, well, you know, particularly in maybe America, England, parts of Europe, shallow breathers, because we're so concerned with how we look when we walk down the street holding in our tummies, that we're not actually using our breath properly, and actually to just let it all hang out.
Yeah.
And let ourselves just breathe.
Which takes us back to the lunar eclipse, you know, about not necessarily just chatting away for the sake of it, but it's about chatting with meaning, or thinking with meaning, or ignoring data that's not particularly meaningful. Because there's so much out there, isn't there? So much data to consume, or they want us to consume.
Yeah, and things can get quite addictive as well if we're not careful. I use an app called TikTok. I'm, you know, probably a millennial on TikTok is probably a bit unheard of, as they seem to be more sort of Gen Z, you know, younger generation using it. But I absolutely love it. I find it fascinating. But perhaps I need to reshape how much time I...
You do like your doggy videos.
I do love watching anything to do with animals, dogs, cats. I love all of that.
Yeah, but relax. That's something, you know, because a lot of us have had more time at home, and therefore the thought would be, well, could we relax? But if we're bored, that actually can create a lack of relaxation in a way. Because we've had a lack of stimulation. We do need that Gemini energy. We need stimulation. I have Mercury, the ruler of Gemini, in the 3rd house. I also have my draconic sun in Gemini. So I'm quite a Gemini-like person. My sun's also in the 3rd house. So, you know, the first thing I do when I wake up is read news. I'm absolutely addicted to current affairs. So I need to listen to my own advice here.
Yes, maybe that will be our challenge for the week. So, shall we have a little look at, on the note of, you know, relax and getting maybe more in touch with nature, I thought that this week it would be nice to use the Nature Whispers Oracle cards.
Lovely.
We haven't used them for a really long time. They're really pretty, very gentle, which is, I think, the kind of energy we need.
Yes.
A little bit more of. Okay, so the card that comes up says Potential Gateway. Wow, this card is absolutely stunning if you can see it. It's this beautiful tree with this sort of heart-shaped portal in it. I think that this idea of potential gateway, the first thing that comes to me is meditation. And I don't just mean meditation where we just sit down and we try and switch off. Like, I have done some very deep meditations where I feel as though they've taken me to another world. One of the things that really invokes that in me is anything to do with like shamanic drumming or anything like that. I find it really speaks to my soul. For some people, it would be listening to the rain, or listening to thunder, or anything that invokes an emotion of a connection with something deeper, I think could be really beneficial for us this week, not just to think about the material.
I like
plane.
wind and rain, actually, although obviously we would like to have a bit of sunshine.
A bit of sunshine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's lovely, Elisa. Well, unfortunately, nobody wrote in and shared their birthday details for this week commencing the 24th of May. So if you would like us to, or like me to do an analysis of your birthday, your solar return, and a look around your natal chart, please just put under your name on YouTube, time, date, place of where you were born and where you're located now. And, we've had a lucky winner every single week so far, but just no one put their name forwards for this week, unfortunately. So there was no one for me to work with in that regard. So in terms of, we'd just like to call out some things. Thank you so much to our subscribers on Patreon, and to Jane becoming a new patron. Thank you so much, Jane. It's really appreciated. Yeah. We've also managed to sort out some tech problems as well that have been going on, so that's great. But also, if you would like to subscribe to the channel, we'd be very appreciative of that as well. If you'd like to get your free daily horoscope, please see the link beneath this video, because you can get that straight to your device every single morning, and that's a piece of information not to ignore for sure. But from the A team, it is
goodbye from him,
and it's goodbye from her. Goodbye.